And Matt says, well, Paul, that's not why I'm calling. And I said, okay, what's wrong? And he says, well, the reason I'm calling is I'm wondering, would you be willing to get back on the field? And I laughed. I was raised in the east side of Cleveland. It was a relatively poor upbringing, so it didn't take me long to figure out that the only way that I was going to get out of the auto industry, factories or the steel mills, was through really, really good grades, which I did not have, or through a sports scholarship. So I committed myself to the sport of football. I did extremely well. Through the sport and through all of the bumps and bruises and challenges that I went through, I learned something about my nature. And what I learned about myself is I was a protector of sorts. I enjoyed playing offensive line, but boy, did I get a lot of fun out of playing linebacker. I just loved making the tackle and just wreaking havoc. So I realized I'm not only a protector, I'm also a bit of a destroyer. So as it turns out, I got a lot of offers from a bunch of Division I schools, but I chose Tulane. The people in the Northeast call it the Harvard of the South. But have I mentioned yet that Tulane beat USC in the last Cotton Bowl? Did I mention that yet? Anyway, and I did consider my attributes, my nature, as a protector, as a destroyer, as an aggressive person. I considered those things with regard to making my decision to go to law school. It was perfectly suited for me. I love what I'm doing. The fact that I get paid to do it, thanks. I'd do it anyway. So I went to one of the competitors of Matthews, and I was with them over 20 years. And I very quickly became the general counsel, the chief legal officer. And at some point in time, in one of my visits to Encino, the manager introduced me to an individual that he thought was going to be one of his strongest and best upcoming young agents. And it was Kyle Matthews. And Kyle jumps out of his chair and he walks over to me and says, Paul, can we talk? And I'm very quickly realizing this guy is totally committed. He knows the business and he's learning it quickly, and he's also strong and confident enough to approach one of the senior officers of the company and ask them for their private counsel and time. Every time I went into the Encino brokerage office, I knew that I was going to spend time with Kyle Matthews. It was wonderful. And then as time went along, I decided, you know what? I'm not real happy with the culture and the direction that the firm that I was with is going. And I decided maybe it's time for me to step aside for a while. And I decided to retire and concentrate again on perfecting the game of golf and hunting here in Wyoming and in Texas. I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about what am I going to do for the next 10, 20 years? My phone rings, and I answer it, and it's one of my good friends and colleagues from the old days at the former company. His name's Matt Fitzgerald. And not only is he one of the best guys, he's also an absolute expert in the field of commercial real estate. So Matt says, hey, Paul, I wanted to let you know I have moved on and I'm joining Matthews. And I responded and said, Matt, that is fantastic news. You're going to have so much fun working for Kyle. It's just going to be an exciting period for you. I wish you the best. And Matt says, well, Paul, that's not why I'm calling. And I said, okay, what's wrong? And he says, well, the reason I'm calling is I'm wondering, would you be willing to get back on the field? And I laughed. And I said, you know what? Absolutely. Tell Kyle to give me a call. Kyle, I think he called me the very next day. And I said, how soon can you meet with me? I'll fly out to Nashville. We'll sit down and talk this through. And he literally said next week. I was on a flight like the next Monday. And after 2 days of talking, I was the first chief legal officer for Matthews.